Hi, and welcome to Makeup with a Message on the Crowned with Luce podcast. Today, I'll be sharing the powerful story of Liat, a woman who went to bed hating Jesus and woke up loving Yeshua. As I walk you through this beautiful testimony, I'll be creating this timeless smoky eye look that's perfect for anyone, but especially my beauties over 40. So if you want a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of glam, then let's do this. Start doing my makeup as I tell the story. So I'm so excited for you guys to hear this really powerful testimony. I love stories of anyone coming to Jesus. Jews, Muslims, Hindus, you name it. My husband is Jewish Moroccan. So for me, the reason why I even grew in my faith is actually thanks to him, because he had so many questions just by going and researching, so I can give him answers as to why I believe Jesus was his Jewish Messiah, increased my faith. So there's a special place in my heart for the Jewish people, not because of just my husband, but because I know my Jesus was Jewish. He was born into a Jewish family, and so I really have a heart for the Jewish people. So let's get started. My skin's moisturized. I'm gonna go in with my primer. This one I'm gonna be using the Hydrating Grip Primer. It's Hydro Boost by Neutrogena. If you have dry skin, this is a great primer. So I love putting on my skincare with my hands, as well as even sometimes my foundation, but today we'll use a beauty blender. So the story of Liat begins with her starting to say, Jesus was a cuss word and his name was Yeshua. It's not their fault. That's what they're grown up to believe, that Jesus was just someone who came and he was someone who disobeyed God, misused his powers, and so God punished him. And it is the furthest thing from the truth. And when I'm able to have the opportunity to speak with my Jewish friends, my brothers and sisters, I love when I explain it to them lovingly and they see it. It's literally the most rewarding thing, because I really believe it's the most Jewish thing you could do, to believe in Jesus. So Liat was born in Israel, in a suburb of Tel Aviv. So she was born there, she grew up there. She went and served in the army there. Even women are called to go into the army and serve in the army. And by the way, right now I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Luminous foundation. And I'm mixing these two shades because I was in a rush and I just grabbed these two, but the 130N and the 340C. And I'm just gonna put that all over. So back to Liat's story. She decided after her service that she was going to move to the United States. So she moves to the United States. She meets this guy who's not Jewish. He's a Christian. They fall in love, they get married. And her family's not really happy about it, because they're thinking, how are you gonna raise your kids? But because Greg, who's his name, Greg is not really, he's okay with her being Jewish and doesn't really care. They love each other. So they're like, we can make it work. They get married and they have their kids. Comes to a time where her son's 13 and they have to do a bar mitzvah. So they go around finding out who can do the bar mitzvah. And the only place is this really Orthodox Jewish temple. Orthodox Jews are more religious. So she sees like how loving they are, how they know God, and they're so close to the Lord. So she's like, that's what I'm going to do, because she was in search of God. So she decides, I'm going to be an Orthodox Jew. So she says that they send their kids to Sunday school on Sundays and then to a really Orthodox, temple on Saturdays. But she does say that she started noticing a few things. By the way, the concealer was Fenty Beauty. So she notices a couple of things. One of the things she notices is that when the children go up to read the Torah, they're called by their name, son of this person. So when her son would go up and read the Torah, they would say son of Liat. They would name the name and say son of Liat. And she found that this was something so hurtful because she realized that they didn't really recognize her husband, Greg, as their father. So that was one of the things that really hurt her. The second thing she said that really affected her was that the head rabbi told her she has to get a divorce from her husband. And she thought, but I'm so happy. I don't understand. She didn't understand this. So she said, the place that I went to find God, I couldn't find him in all the traditions. And she said that honestly, she loved being Jewish. She wanted to connect, but finding a place where her husband wasn't accepted or respected, she couldn't find herself being a part of that. And so it really broke her heart. I'm going to be going in with this blush, and it is the shade Georgia by Persona Cosmetics. And I'm going to put some, just the back of my hand a little bit, just to warm it up. And then I'm going to place it on the apples of my cheeks. And I'm going to be using this brush by Rare Beauty to do that. So it's a really pretty peach blush. So she decided that maybe the Orthodox Judaism wasn't the way, but she knew she needed God. She needed something. What happened was she decided she was going to create her own religion, her own spirituality, and she was going to say that it was full of love, humility, beauty, forgiveness, all the things that we all want, right? In the meantime, as she's, trying to be content with this newfound faith of hers, she realizes her husband's getting closer to the Lord. So her husband goes up to her and says, listen, Liat, we believe in the same God. I still believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so it's the same God. And so what she says is, this is also what I've heard a lot of my friends say, well, then why can't you be Jewish? She says, if you could just convert to Judaism, everything will be fine. Since it's the same God, just convert to Judaism. And so she goes on to say that Jesus basically started to get between them. She said that Greg would literally leave around like books, and every time she would find them and every time she would see them, she would either turn around the book or she would put them in drawers. Just basically, she's like, I didn't want to see them. Jesus became the problem. And her husband, in the meantime, would just start to hide things from her. And she realized, oh my goodness, I refused to allow Greg to be rejected, and now I'm rejecting him. I'm actually going to jump into just the powder contour, and I'm just going to contour my face a little bit around just to warm it up and give myself some warmth. And as she's coming to this realization, she realizes that this religion or the spirituality that she's created is really not helping her. And so she realizes, you know what, I really need a real savior. I need someone who's gonna really change my heart. By the way, I didn't mention earlier, but I'm doing a smoky eye with like a nude lip. So I'm going to be using this paint pot by MAC Cosmetics in the shade Taylor Gray. Primers help for the shadow to stay on without creasing. So I'm gonna do that right now, and I'm just gonna put it on my lid. And this is slightly gray, it's slightly darker, but I'm gonna go over it with a darker shadow. I'm using another brush to just lightly do the bottom part as well, just as close to my lash line as possible. Then I'm gonna go in with the eyeliner, and I'm gonna go as close to my lash line as possible. And this one's by Persona Cosmetics in the shade brown. It's a pretty dark brown. I'm actually going to rim it because I need to look into the mirror, and I'll be right back. And now I'm gonna go and set it with the actual shadow on this one. Is the Mario palette. This one's the Ethereal Eyes, and I'm gonna be going in with these two shades. So one night, Liat goes to sleep, and she hears her mom, and I'm assuming this is a dream, but it feels like it's real. Her mom comes and wakes her up and says, Liat, Liat, Yeshua Mashiach, which means, Liat, wake up, Yeshua is the Messiah. Here's the thing. She says, I've never heard of the word Yeshua for Jesus, but somehow I knew that she was talking about Jesus. So I'm going to go ahead and finish my eyes and I'll be right back. Okay, so what I did was using a semi-flat natural bristle brush, I tapped the color all over my lid, and then using a smaller, more dense brush, this one's angled, I went ahead and went as close to my lash line and I placed the color. Now I'm gonna go back and blend it using a dome brush. This one's by Smashbox, so I'm just gonna go and blend that around. And I'm gonna actually use that lighter shade, the lighter brown, to go around and kind of soften those edges. That way when you look down, you wanna make sure that there's no hard edges. I'm gonna do the same thing with the bottom. I'm gonna be using a smaller dome brush, tap it in there, and just blend that shade at the bottom. Then I'm gonna go in with my mascara. This is my personal one, so I'm gonna just be using that. And I like to go over about 2-3 coats because I like a dramatic lash, especially with smoky eyes. If you don't have long lashes, then you could do individuals or strip lashes. So the next night when she goes to sleep, her husband wakes her up and tells her, Liat, Liat, you kept calling on the name of Yeshua in your dream. And she said she realized that she believed in Jesus, but she was afraid to tell him because she was not sure what he was going to say, what he was going to think. For my brows, I'm going to go in with this Galactic in medium. It's a soft powder eyebrow pencil. And I'm just going to lightly just shape it. I already have the brows and I just want to go in and just define them just a little bit more, just on the outer corners. I'm not going to touch the inner corner because I already have plenty there. So at this point, Liat already kind of knows, and she's coming to the realization that Jesus really is the Messiah. But before going to bed the next day, she says, Abba Adonai, which means Father God, can you please give me one more dream? And that evening she sees another dream. And of course, she wakes up and she already realizes, you know what? This is real, that Jesus is really my Messiah. But she takes it a step further. This is a highlighter by Laura Mercier. This one's in the shade Indiscretion. And I'm just using a little fluffy brush. This one's by Zoeva for my highlighter. So she decides, okay, I think this is it, but I don't want just anyone telling me about Jesus. She decides in Hebrew, she goes onto the internet and she types in Lama Yeshua. And Lama Yeshua means why Jesus. So One for Israel pops up, which is where I found this amazing testimony. They're one of the YouTube channels I follow a lot because they live in Israel and they really spread the gospel to the Jewish people because they were born Jewish. So she gets on a call with them and talks to them. And of course, they explain to her that, you know, accepting Jesus as her Messiah is the most Jewish thing she could do because they're waiting for him. So all in all, she said that she went to sleep hating Jesus and she woke up loving Yeshua. It was a pretty touching story and I love sharing that. I'm going to finish my lips and then I'll come back to give you guys my final thoughts. I'm going to be using this Jaclyn Hill lip pencil in the shade Butter Pecan, and then I'm going to be going over it with this Elamon Beauty lip stain in the shade Paris, and I'm going to top it off with this Dose of Colors lip gloss. So my final thoughts on just this overall video, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was the same God that spoke to Moses, the same God that brought Noah out of the flood, the same God that is throughout history. And so as a believer in Jesus, Yeshua, the more I try to show, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast, the more I try to research to show my husband, who's Jewish, the connection and the prophecies that really connected, the more I learned and the more my faith grew. And so now I have a heart to share this with the Jewish people, that Jesus is your Messiah. You can find it in Isaiah 53, the suffering servant, or Psalm 22, that it begins with, my God, why have you forsaken me?" is one of the very last things Jesus said on the cross. And he was pointing to this prophecy that the psalmist wrote in Psalm 22, which was depicting exactly what he would go through. I encourage you, if you are Jewish, to go and read not only Psalm 22 and Isaiah 53, but all throughout the Torah and the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim, and my apologies if I'm not pronouncing this right. You will see that there are so many prophecies that have come true with Jesus. In fact, I encourage you to research what are the prophecies before Jesus that were prophesied that he fits exactly to the T. Like if Jesus even performed or fulfilled one of even 8 of the actual prophecies, which he fulfilled over hundreds of prophecies, that the chances of that happening is like taking the state of Texas, filling it with quarters 2 feet or I don't know how many feet tall. Google it. The chances of that is like blindfolding you and having you go and pick that one gold coin out of the, I don't know, billions of coins that it would take to fill the state of Texas with all those coins. That's the chance of Jesus fulfilling 8 prophecies, and yet he fulfilled every single one of them. So I encourage you, if you're Jewish, you identify as Jewish, please Google it and pray and ask the Lord to show you the truth. Just like she did, she humbly said, if you really are who you are. And there's going to be many more testimonies, and I can't wait to share them with you. Not just Jewish testimonies, but of Muslims, of Hindus, and just so many atheists. So I encourage you to just pray and ask God, and if he's real, to show you in a way that you cannot deny it. And I promise this is something that's worth it, because it is our eternity that's hanging in the balance. Thank you so much for watching. And I hope Liat's story inspired you and that you picked up some tips and techniques on how to create this timeless smoky eye. And if this blessed you, please like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear this message. And if you know of a powerful testimony, please drop it in the comments so that I can feature it in future episodes. Until next time, remember, you are loved, you are cherished, and you are crowned in his light.